Yeah, sure.
What was that? Inconceivable. That's what I hear.
Inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
You keep using that word.
I love it.
I do not think it means what you think it means.
Princess Bride is a fantastic anime.
Yes, it is. Best anime. And right up there with Cory in the House.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai. And joining me tonight, we have our poser extraordinaire, Natai.
I, too, don't tend to talk to my exes, you know. Yay, relatable Monogatari, am I right?
Yeah, that's something you and Shinobu have in common, then.
She's my 500 years old soulmate.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, the two of us have gotten together tonight because it is, of course, time again to delve into the Monogatari series. This time, we are doing part 2 of our Owarimonogatari part 1 Spoilercast. I know that's probably very
This is not convoluted at all. Nah.
It's not convoluted. Essentially, we are doing the Shinobu male arc, which is episodes 8 through 13 of Owarimonogatari part 1.
It's a beefy arc.
It is 6 episodes, and we have 10 pages worth of notes, so this is gonna be great.
This is par for the course, dude. Like we've been talking about this every single time. There's so much shit to talk about with these Monogatari arcs, especially when they're so beefy. Literally, last episode we spent 45 minutes on 2 episodes.
Yeah, for sure. But let's get right into it. So. We have the same ED throughout all of Owarimonogatari.
With different visuals,
part
though.
1. Different visuals, but same song. Sayonara no Yukue by Elisa Takigawa.
Nailed it.
I will say I prefer the visuals for this arc as opposed to what we got.
Really?
Before. I do. I don't know. There's something about them I like a little bit more. I won't say either one is bad, but.
Yeah, for sure. I tend to like the previous iteration of this ED more. I just like with all like the imagery of Ogi and Sodachi and Koyomi, like the interaction between the three. Even Hanekawa shows up for a second. It's real cute. But yeah, I like how in this ED it's Shinobu by herself with a glass of wine. I do like that imagery though. I think it's
seems like something she would do. Let's be
definitely
honest.
And like her sort of loneliness. I think it's something that is very fitting to depict for this arc.
Yeah, it's very fitting for this arc because you and I were talking about it before we started recording here. This arc is ostensibly about how Shinobu can't handle her own emotions. How like any kind of trauma that she comes up against, she immediately shuts down.
She definitely does not know how to confront her own emotions, her own like mixed feelings about whatever is gonna happen in this arc. And I think that's great. I love how we'll get to it, but I love how this arc sort of confronts Shinobu about that and puts her in a very difficult position. We haven't seen her before. We have seen her in and we will see her in Kizu in like very, very tough situations, but not as emotionally difficult as we will see her in this arc.
I mean, the difference with Kizu, which is actually what we will be covering after this, stay tuned for that, is more of a physical trauma as opposed to a psychological or mental trauma.
Although you could say that like the fallout of Kizu is what we saw in Bake. She was kind of like she was just very distant and very like trying to cope with her new situations. So like but this is like so much more textured and mature of a confrontation. That we're
and certainly more thoroughly explored because like with what we saw in Bake with her like withdrawing and stuff was more surface level, whereas because like you can kind of understand it, like you're someone who's really powerful and you've suddenly lost all of your power. I'd be a little withdrawn too because I'd be a little upset about that. Anyway, back to this actual arc. We did get a new OP. It is Mind Shots by Meg Rock, and it kind of goes back to that
Shinobu Time OP.
Yeah, the Shinobu Time, where there's no like, there are technically lyrics because there's like
it's like a German choir, right?
Yeah, it's like a choir or a choral aspect to it.
Choral.
I can speak. I know words. But there's no actual like lyrics, and it's certainly not sung by any member of the cast like usual. But I really like it. I like the again, back to the Shinobu Time like visuals of it. I don't know. I really like that visual style. I like the song. It's very it's very melodic.
It's very dramatic. It's very like, I mean, I remember once ages ago digging into the lyrics. I should have probably done that before we started recording, but it's very dramatic, and I love how visually like it uses like everyone's wearing these like sort of, it seemed like very old type of like Japanese clothing. Like Araragi has this like massive white cloak around him, and it looks great. Where he's like on his knees, like whatever, throwing his hands at the sky. It's great, and also I love that that shot of what I would assume to be the first slave, where he's like in that sort of cage, looking like with long hair, looking like a monster. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's and I think it's really cool that Shinobu, her OPs are like in that style. I wonder if it's because like, I don't know if her voice actress just doesn't sing. I would love to hear that though. But I do like how they stay consistent.
No, she sings. I've heard it.
But I do like they picked like a very specific, very different type of openings for Shinobu that are so different than the other girls, because it makes sense. She's from a different time. She's from a completely different time.
And also place. Like the fact that both this OP and the one back in Shinobu Time have these choir arrangements with German lyrics in them is also very appropriate, because I mean, it hasn't really been expounded on yet. I guess I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse here when I say that like that's the part of the world that she was originally supposed to be from.
Which is cool. Like I like that it's, again, this fucking adaptation is just nailing it, adding more like stuff on top of it to make the whole thing feel like more cohesive and just like it's awesome,
Yeah. So since we have so much to get into with these 10 fucking pages,
let's get right into it.
Episode 8. It is story time with Koyomi and Ogi. So this opening like scene takes place on March 13th.
Right.
Just before Koyomi is going to go to his like college entrance exams. And like it's just framed as a storytelling device where he is relaying the
he's
story
recounting
of
the
what
events
happened.
of like something that happened in the past to Ogi.
Yeah, and as we will find out, what he is relating is the events from his perspective that take place during the Tsubasa Tiger arc of Neko Monogatari White.
Which is awesome. Yeah, it's like this one of the, like, the moment you realize this arc happens at the same time as Tsubasa Tiger, it just like makes it that much more like interesting. And you like, we talked about this right before we started recording, but the cool thing about this arc is sort of like how it puts all the pieces into place, and everything's like, okay, now we can connect the dots between almost everything that happened so far.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, so he's relaying the story to Ogi. It's 2 months before she transferred there. We have that.
It's
that
right
thing
after.
That happens.
It's right after fucking Shinobu time. So it's right after Mayoi passes away, and right after his link with Shinobu is severed.
And this is also, now we haven't had at the point the story is taking place, we haven't had the Hitagi end stuff go on yet, but at this time, Nadeko is possessed by the snake oddity. Although Koyomi doesn't know that.
Wait a minute, doesn't that happen afterwards though?
Listen, the fucking timeline for this is really weird.
Keep going, I'm fact checking.
Sometimes with the Monogatari series, you get weird timelines and shit, and it gets cross. I'm pretty sure at the point that we're at in this story, Koyomi knows about the snake entity. I don't know if he knows that Nadeko is possessed by it yet.
It's
Anyway, it's
said before Nanako Medusa. It's still before.
Okay, so he knows of it. He just doesn't know it's possessed by, or she's possessed by it.
No, but wait a minute.
I say that because no, hold on. I say that because later on he mentions a snake oddity.
No, oh wait, he does mention Jakiranoa. That's the fucking snake from Nadeko snake, not Nanako Medusa.
Ah, see, this is
the arc from Bake. So like that's where the confusion is from.
Aha, there we go. Okay, so that's how he knows about the snake entity.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's fucking serious, dude.
I know. This is what you gotta. This is why it forces you to pay attention, man. This is why it forces you to pay attention. Anyway, so at this time, Koyomi is like temporarily residing in that old abandoned cram school that Meme was at. And Kanbaru just shows up because Koyomi requested him. Now, if you'll remember, part of what happened in second season, or was it Tsubasa Tiger? I can't remember now. I guess Tsubasa Tiger is part of second season, technically.
It is part of second season, definitely.
Even though it was released its own thing.
You're thinking about fucking Neko Black.
Neko Black. Anyway. See, I've watched this stuff lots of times, and even I get confused about the timeline.
We're off to a great start.
We're off to a great start with this. I forgot where I was going with it.
Basically, Kanbaru shows up at the request of...
So Gaian back in second season had asked to have Kanbaru come and like, hey, I need to see her. I need to talk to her. So that's what this is like referencing, right? That Koyomi asked Kanbaru to show up. So Kanbaru shows up and immediately sexually harasses Koyomi, as is standard at this point.
Now listen, I love Nishio Isin. I think he's fantastic. I love his writing. Goddamn, this opening scene meanders so fucking much.
It does.
It's like, so she basically, like, knees him in the face, and that leads to, like, one thing, which is, like, that's kind of cool. It leads to a scene that because his link with Shinobu is severed, he doesn't heal instantly. But then it goes into that fucking tangent about her fucking puns, where she has boys on her knees or something. It's like, God fucking damn it.
I like that thing where she says, I prefer if you call them patellas instead of kneecaps because it's one letter away from paella. And when I think about hot, spicy Spanish boys...
It's like that Monty Python bit. It's like, get on with it.
Yeah, kind of. It does meander a little bit, and I feel like they added a lot of this to just, like, pad out the runtime because they realized, oh shit, these chapters we need to adapt aren't long enough for a full episode.
I don't know. I can definitely see it just being as Nishio Isin, just like fucking around. It's like, oh, I like this pun. I need to work it into the story somehow. But it's like, it's like, come on, guys.
Get on with it. But anyway, so Koyomi reveals that he's been asked to enlist Kanbaru in her quest, but the details of what is actually going to be requested are not known to him at all. But because of Kanbaru's like closeness to Koyomi, she feels compelled to just assist him regardless of whatever the details of this request are. Koyomi should have known that before he agreed to this, because he was halfway like thinking, oh, she'll never agree to a request where she doesn't know the details. You should have known better, Koyomi. You really should have.
Yeah.
But anyway, as they're leaving to actually go to the rendezvous point for this little meetup between, well, we know that it's Kanbaru and Gaian, but Kanbaru doesn't know that. A big fucking suit of armor just randomly attacks him out of nowhere.
Just a fucking samurai, shadow samurai attacking him.
I immediately you're like, okay, what the fuck? But the suit actually is seemingly empty because Kanbaru like attacks it and it just immediately falls apart and there's no body in it.
Yeah.
And so they're just staring at it like, well, that's kind of fucking weird. Whatever. I wonder what would happen if we tried to put it together. And they're like, okay, well, let's try that. Then just out of nowhere, the armor just like, nah, fuck this. I'm gonna fucking fix myself. Reassembles itself and just attacks him again. So Kanbaru, being the Chad that she is, just decides, well, I'll just take care of this shit and starts attacking it. But every time she attacks it, she gets weaker and weaker, and then she eventually just collapses.
Energy drain.
Energy drain. Yeah. So Koyomi recognizes this because, like, as someone who's at least partially vampire himself, and hanging around with someone who is a vampire, he recognizes that vampiric energy drain. It's the exact same power.
Also very similar to Black Hanakawa.
Yes, that too. So the suit of armor just randomly starts attacking Koyomi too, has him by the neck. But as this is happening, all of a sudden, just like these reddish pink flames, which if you've been paying attention, are flames you should have seen before.
Yeah, those are Kako's flames. And I love the setup to this, where before the samurai shows up, like, so in Kanbaru's fucking bullshit monologue, whatever, she's like, because at first she's like, oh, maybe you're inviting me to this rundown high school at night because you want to have sex with me or something. It's like, I even noticed in one of the classes, someone, like, pulled the tables together to form a bed. It's like, that's the same bed Hanakawa used in Tsubasa Tiger. So I love how they sort of, like, built to that. And then you have the payoff, which is the actual flames of Kako actually showing up and actually saving the two of them from the samurai.
Again, both Kanbaru and Koyomi don't know that, though. We know it as an audience because we've seen it already.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of cool because then, and at the end of the arc, we'll get another, like, sort of, I sort of got that feeling at the end of the arc. It's like, it's almost like Ogi, in a sense, became a vessel for the viewers, sort of a representation of the viewers in, like, the story, because Aragi's telling the story to Ogi, and Ogi knows the story of Hanakawa as well. And so, like, just like the viewers were piecing it together, it's like, oh, it's, you know, it's great.
And while this is going on, the armor just starts speaking, but it's speaking with Koyomi's voice that's been stolen. Now, it's not, like, stolen from him. It's, like, I guess, borrowed, because Koyomi can still speak. It's not like he has his voice actually taken away from him.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I know. Koyomi not being able to speak, he'd probably fucking kill himself. But the armor, like, speaks using Koyomi's voice, saying that it's looking for its master. Which, you know, that's weird. Immediately you're thinking, well, maybe obviously a suit of armor is meant to be worn by a person, so maybe the suit's master is the person who used to wear it. But anyway, it becomes obvious that the suit of armor is actually talking about Kiss Shot and the demon sword, Kokorowatari.
Even mentions Kiss Shot.
Yeah, he mentions Kiss Shot by name.
Which Aragi never uses her name, like, that name. He always called her Shinobu, so it's interesting.
Yeah, which is a nice pun. Hot on the blade.
Hot on the blade, though.
But yeah, he says without the sword, he feels incomplete, which is also something that Kanbaru alluded to, that the sword of armor was missing something. Or the suit, not the sword. The suit of armor was missing something. But then the armor just, like, fucking leaves as the cram school gets engulfed with flames. And so, like, now Koyomi and Kanbaru are like, oh shit, we gotta get out of here. We're gonna get
first Kanbaru is like, if we're gonna die, please have sex with me. Take my virginity. Yeah. It's like, god damn it, this fucking stupid
sexual harassment
bitch.
I'm just reminded of, I can't remember what anime it's from, but I'm just reminded of that scene where someone just slams the desk and goes, sexual harassment!
That's real?
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up later.
I can't remember what anime that's from, but I do remember it happening. But anyway, they're, like, thinking about, how do we get out of here? How do we get out of here? And of course, Koyomi's brilliant plan is the fucking window. Let's jump through it and fall to our deaths.
But of course, we get Ononoki that saves them. It's like,
yeah, like, Ononoki comes in as the Deus Ex Machina here, which that's something I've heard people say about Ononoki, that she's literally a Deus Ex Machina. She shows up only when she's needed, which is kind of true.
It's funny because last time we saw her in Owarimonogatari, which obviously happens chronologically after this arc, but she literally is put in the Aragi's house to protect, like, Aragi. So like, it's sort of in the later half of the series, it's sort of like her in, like, what she's mostly instructed to do. So, like, I get it. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of an issue.
I understand the criticism, though. I really do. But yeah, it's yay, peace, peace. Oh, Ononoki's here, and that's kind of how the episode ends. Like it's sort of like, oh, hey, thanks for saving my life. Now what?
Yeah.
Kind of ending. And that leads directly into episode 9.
So did you like the Ononoki feat?
Listen. I'm not saying this is my favorite appearance of Ononoki because I got to see her feet. But I'm not saying that either.
Fucking you. The moment I saw, I was like, Alex is like losing his shit somewhere right now.
I have watched that particular scene on repeat a couple of times. Yes.
Moving along.
Anyway, yeah, Ononoki's like, oh no, I wasn't here to save you. It's coincidence. It's coincidence. Because I only show up because of coincidence. Yeah, sure.
What was that? Inconceivable. That's what I hear. Inconceivable.
You keep using that word.
I love it.
I do not think it means what you think it means.
Princess Bride is a fantastic anime.
Yes, it is. Best anime. And right up there with Cory in the House.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, they meet up with Ononoki after she saves them, and they tell her about what's up. And Ononoki is like, hey, you remember when you told Gain that after she helped with the whole Hachikuji incident, you're gonna bring her Kanbaru so they can meet? And he's like...
Also, I'd like to point out that when Koyomi is relating this story to Ononoki, he very conveniently leaves out all that stuff about Kiss Shot.
Yeah. That definitely he says from like himself. He doesn't... Because he knows that whatever he would relate to Ononoki, she would probably tell Gain about it. And I think it's very... I like how, as much as Koyomi is dense, he's not that stupid. You know, he knows when to like keep shit to himself, right?
Yeah, but he also should know that Gaia knows all.
I know, but yeah,
she's gonna find out.
I don't know. Like I totally get why he doesn't trust her, even though she's supposedly.
Oh yeah,
everything.
At this point in the story, he's only met her like once, I think, kinda, and then talked to her on the phone once. Like that's it.
Pretty much. But yeah, so basically after that they leave. He takes Kanbaru, who's unconscious. He's heading towards.
Oh, so before we go on, I do want to point out. I mean, we were making fun of the whole foot thing earlier. There is a reason.
There's an actual reason. That's right.
There is a reason that there is payoff for that. It's not just done because it's Nisio. I mean, it is Nisio and weirdness, but there is a payoff for it.
Tarantino would approve.
Listen, Tarantino should do a live-action version of the Monogatari series. Just saying.
Japanese, motherfucker. Do you speak?
Do you speak it? But yeah, and Ononoki's like, you're not gonna break your promise, are you? That'd be a really bad idea to break your promise to Gaia, and she'll fucking murder your ass.
And then basically Aragi's like, yeah, all right, and he's taking Kanbaru with him on his way to the park.
Yeah, scoops up an unconscious Kanbaru and puts her on his back.
Now on the way to like the park, basically they have a quick like fuckery about, it's like, oh, are we lost? Are we lost? Are we actually lost?
It's set up like the whole lost cow thing again. It really is.
Yeah, and then it's like, it's on the one hand, I get it. They kind of want to play on your expectations of that, even though Hachikuji is gone. But then it's like, Kanbaru is like, oh, if you just don't use the actual like road as it's intended, you can sort of circumvent it, right? And it's like,
yeah,
okay, sure. I don't know. I remember the first time I watched it, I was kind of iffy about that section of the episode, and now I'm still kind of whatever about it. It just feels a bit clunky, you know.
It does. Yeah, it does feel very clunky. It's almost like it's tacked on. Like, did we really need this? But then when you see what happens a little bit later, like, it kind of makes a little more sense, but still, it's like...
It's not the most elegant solution to what they're... to get to the point they want to get in the arc, you know?
No, it's not. But, yeah, you got that thing where Koyomi calls Gaien, and it's like, Gaen's like, nah, I don't fucking see a problem. Bye, motherfucker.
It's like, you can handle this. You'll be fine.
You got this. You got this. So Kanbru, now that she's fucking awake again, and of course sexually harasses Koyomi the second she regains consciousness. Um, she just climbs up a telephone pole and is like, "Yeah, I see it. It's over there. That's Hitagi's old place, and I know that park is near there." And they're like, "All right, well, after 3 hours, I don't know how it took you 3 fucking hours to get somewhere you could see with your own fucking eyes, but sure." They finally get there. Of
It's
course,
the
Guy
same park
is,
from Mayoi Snail.
yeah, from the first place, the place that Koyomi and Hitagi meet for their like first date.
I mean, it wasn't a date. It was the
It was an interrogation.
you could say. But yeah, and there they fucking see Shinobu with scratches on her, like she was in a fight apparently or something. And I love the fucking reaction from Kanbro, which is like, you have that perfect gif of her sort of like crouching down and sort of jumping at the same time. It's great.
Just like salivating, like,
A lolly.
yes, let me grope. Yeah, and you see that multiple times in just the background, this her very excited expression on her face.
Yeah, I love how they play with that. Like every shot, like every other shot, you see Conroy in a different position, just like frothing at the mouth at seeing Shinobu. And this is the first time they actually meet each other in the series, which is
This is the very first time that those two characters have specifically met each other. Now, I'm pretty sure that Koyomi has talked to Kanbru about Shinobu before, but this is the first time they've actually met. But Shinobu explains to Koyomi and Kanbru that, quote, a cat and a doll who stomped on Koyomi's face with a bare foot, unquote, had helped her fight a monkey. And this seems very familiar. This seems very familiar to anyone who's been paying attention up to this point. And also that the doll, which the doll is obviously a reference to Ononoki.
which Shinobu doesn't like that much.
Yeah, Shinobu does not like Ononoki at all, really. And it makes sense because vampires prey on the living. What is Ononoki? A corpse.
Also, I love again the callback to Tsubasa Tiger. It's like, oh, that's why Shinobu was on her own, right?
Yes.
She was like the link was severed in Shinobu time, and now it's like, and she was on her own, and like she met up with Hanekawa, and then she got it to the park, and that's where she meets Aragino finally.
Yeah. And also that Ononoki had let Shinobu know about their current problem. But then Shinobu's like, "Hey, brace yourself, motherfucker! The enemy's returned." That's how that episode ends.
And then we get a fucking weird, fucking apparition thing, which basically
episode 10. Episode 10 starts with like, it's basically Koyomi and Kanbru turning to face this apparition that's returned to the park where Shinobu has been, and Shinobu's already fought this thing one time. That's how she got the scratches. But the apparition is essentially an amalgamation of all of the apparitions that Koyomi has faced up until this point. You've got the monkey, you've got the snake, you've got the tiger, you've got the
crab.
The crab.
No, wait. It's only the crab, the monkey, and the snake, as far as I could tell.
Not perhaps. Anyway, it's an amalgamation. That's the whole point.
That fight scene is fine. I love how they present, again, Shinobu pulling out the sword. Basically just like fucking out of her tiny body comes this fucking humongous sword. It's great.
It's comically long. Like, you know how like Final Fantasy has and Berserk as well has like the comically large sword, but they're wide. They're wide blades.
Yeah.
This is a comically long blade.
This is like the Sephiroth type of blade, with just super long.
Yeah. But I also like how in the beginning of the fight, it's like, okay, Koyomi and Kanbru, like they're steeling themselves to fight, like they're bracing themselves in that fighting stance, and then all of a sudden Shinobu's like, nah, fuck that, here's a sword.
And in the fight, so basically, Shinobu pulls the Kokoro Watori sword from herself, throws it to Koyomi, and he then goes to attack and actually beat the apparition. And then
seemingly pretty easily too.
Yeah, I mean, as we will see in Kizu, that sword is like basically the whole point of it is to slay apparitions.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the fight, the snakes, Jagironawa, the same snake from Naruto Snake, actually shows up, tries to attack the two, and Shinobu manages to like crush it and just eat the remaining like fucking flesh or whatever the apparition. Now, shit, my train of thought got cut. Never mind.
Well, did it involve the snake? Because I was gonna say there's a seemingly throwaway line that the snake entity has when he's talking to Naruto, where he mentions like his children getting fucked up, and I'm wondering now if this is actually supposed to be a reference to this.
Maybe actually, I mean, back then it was a reference to like Naruto fucking killing all the snakes, but maybe it also like some of the snakes were actually Jagironawa all this time. So like, I don't know, could be.
Maybe I know that like at the time I thought, well, oh, that's because of all the snakes that Naruto killed, but I'm wondering if it's a reference also to this incident.
That's an interesting question. But anyway, in the fight, that's what I was going to say. So Kanbaru got like her sweatshirt got fucking scratched all over, of course, and then Kanbaru and Aragi swapped their sweatshirts, and that's how we get fucking Aragi in that torn ass sweatshirt we saw in Tsubasa Tiger. Hey, you know?
Yeah. Hey, like this is all coming together.
It's all coming together.
But so they still have a problem. Like obviously, Guyan, who is who they were originally going to meet, obviously isn't here in this park. And Shinobu's like, "Hey, you should try sitting under the swing set like I was." And he's like, "This is ridiculous, but sure, why not?" And as he's sitting there under the swing set, of course, he's trying to look up Shinobu's skirt every single time that she goes by, because I would too.
I thought they were gonna pull another, like, I don't know if you remember back in Tsubasa Cat, you have that one that one animation cut of like Shinobu doing the fucking spinning and jumping and shit before she attacks Black Kanekawa.
Yeah.
And you have that moment where she's like flipping around and like her skirt is blowing, and those fuckers, you can see there something for a split frame. I don't know if you ever like noticed that, but you can see. I was like, wait, are they gonna pull another one?
Trust me, I went frame by frame on that shit.
God damn it! I was like waiting for another moment like that. It's like, oh, they didn't go there. Okay, restraint, chef. Damn.
No, as she's just swinging back and forth, Koyomi notices that there's a picture of Guyan under the swing, telling him to meet her at the Snake Shrine, the one that they've been to multiple times at this point. Also, I have this sneaking suspicion based on how like that picture looks and the way the writing is on it. This is meant to be a reference to Evangelion.
Oh, you're right. The Misato picture.
How Shinji gets the Misato, because it like the pose is very similar, the writing is very similar.
Oh, I didn't think about that. There's so many good references in this arc. Like. We'll get to it, but
I mean, there's that great Shawshank Redemption.
The Shawshank Redemption is my favorite. I love that reference. When he's like realizes I don't have any link to Shinobu, I can do stuff on my own. It's like freedom in the rain.
Yeah, there's also the JoJo reference in episode 1 with he does the Rohan pose.
It's so good. I love it.
Yeah, I recognized that the first time I watched, I was like, that seems really familiar, and then I thought, that's gotta be an Evangelion reference.
I never picked up on that. That's so fucking cool.
Anyway, all three of them, Koyomi, Kanbaru, and Shinobu, go to the shrine, and on the way, Koyomi is explaining to Shinobu his encounter with the armor. And Shinobu, this is the part where Shinobu starts acting like an absolute petulant child for the rest of this, almost the entire rest of this arc. She starts acting like the age that she looks.
Great.
She, right offhand, without any kind of further explanation, it's like, that cannot have anything to do with me. I have no link to anything like this.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I did not have sexual relations with that man that I bit.
Miss Lewinsky. I love that. I one of my actually favorite things about that scene is when the three of them are walking through this like very spherical structure. Like Shaft has always been doing like they've been doing such a great job with the background design for almost the entirety of the series, right? I love how they play with the space the characters like inhabit, and this is another like example of that. Again, it's a very kind of weird structure they walk through on their way to the shrine, but it looks so striking and kind of helps set the tone of that scene to some extent. It just looks fantastic.
You know, you described it as spherical.
Yeah.
It's almost like Shinobu's emotions are running around in circles.
Yep, basically, yeah. It's fantastic. It's so good. And then you have that cutaway to the I will never get that name right of the shrine. It's like, and I always love when they do it where it looks like a snake from the sky, right?
Yeah. So
yeah,
the rough English translation for the name of that shrine is the Polar Snake Shrine.
Something
if that's easier for you to
Shira
say.
had this shrine. I will never manage to pronounce it right.
Yeah. I mean that's the rough English translation that they use in the Blu-rays is Polar Snake Shrine. That's easier to say than the Japanese. I'm sorry, it just is. But anyway,
fucking discount weeb right here using English.
I know.
Preposterous.
It's not like it's my native language or anything. But they do eventually reach the shrine. They meet Guyan, and I don't know if I've said this before, but I love Guyan as a character. But there's a part of me that's like, God, I wish we got more of her. But I feel like if we got more of her, the greatness of her character would actually wear off.
Yeah, she's definitely one of like the biggest examples of the more shrouded in mystery she is, the more interesting she is. Because
it's kind of like Kaiki. Like, as much as I love Kaiki and as much as I want to see more of him, like, I feel like if we got too much more of him, his, like, mystique and, like, grandiosity would just completely go away.
But then again, like, because from the get-go when we first met her in Tsubasa Tiger, she was like, I know everything. And in that arc, that works perfectly because the whole idea of that arc is to deconstruct Hanekawa as a character. So, and what better way to sort of like tear her down is to face her with a character who's actually knows everything, you know? And they sort of just kept building on that. And I like how just shady she gets as the series progresses, because so the three of them get to the shrine. And the first thing that...
It's also worth pointing out that this arc kind of accentuates it, I think, a little more than the Tsubasa Tiger arc did. She is just as old as Kaiki and Meme, but yet she goes to great lengths to hide her age.
Yeah, I mean...
Because she looks like she's like in her early 20s, but she's in her mid to late 40s.
And she tries, like, I love how that is reflected in her design. Her design is fantastic. Like, she dresses all casually and, like, is a very casual person.
She dresses very, very youthfully.
And she even, when the three of them arrive, she presents herself as Oshino Izuko, which we know is bullshit. She's like, oh, I'm Meme's younger sister. And Aragi knows that's bullshit. But, again, it's both, like... She definitely tries to hide her identity from Kanbaru, who's her
and from
niece.
Shinobu.
And from Shinobu. I think Kanbaru more importantly. For some reason, she hides her identity from her niece, which is very interesting.
Something that they've never really delved into is, like, obviously, like, Kanbaru's there's interesting family dynamics in Kanbaru's family, and it's not really, like, explored very much.
Yeah, they don't go through with that sort of plot line as far as I could tell, but it's there. And I guess it's just something for, as this season likes to do, he likes to put red herrings, he likes to like leave threads open that he can like use in the future.
Things that make you think that's a Chekhov's gun, and then like 5 arcs later, oh shit, it wasn't.
It wasn't a gun, it was a fucking shotgun, dude.
It wasn't a fucking gun, it was a hand cannon.
Yeah, but that's the Nishiyo in way. But yeah, so she basically introduces herself as Oshino Izuku. Shinobu falls for it. I guess.
Kanbaru then immediately begins to sexually harass Koyomi again.
Never
by by introducing herself as Koyomi's sex slave.
Eat up, as she says.
Eat up. um, yeah, then Koyomi explains the entire situation to Guyan. And then Guyan's like, "Oh yeah, that's that armor. It's the like the reincarnated, or not reincarnated, but reassembled remains of Kishot's first minion or thrall." And then Shinobu immediately begins to act like a petulant child again. It's like she's almost like a tsundere, like, that couldn't possibly have anything to do with me.
Yeah, she's definitely been reluctant to share whatever she's thinking about and being very dismissive of this whole like theory.
Yeah,
which says
and then
a lot.
Guyan goes into an absolute beast of a lore dump about how Kishot's like first minion revived 400 years after his supposed suicide. And when I say lore dump, this is like a fucking mother of all lore dumps right here. She goes into like 400 years of exposition in like 12 minutes.
Basically, the long and short of it is when Kishot first slave, the who used to be the apparition killer, when he like committed suicide and like threw himself to the sun, he didn't succeed, and for 400 years or so he has been sort of like rebuilding himself, and like he was trying to kill himself but he just couldn't, so he would remain ashes who would slowly form but then would get obliterated again by the sun, and that would be like that would go on and on for like a few hundred years, which
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
sound that
essentially
great.
like the ashes of him were kind of traveling all over the place, and like they'd find somewhere where there wasn't a lot of sun, they'd start to rebuild, and then the sun would come in and just poof right over again.
Basically,
That's pretty much, and there's also a little bit of exposition as to like the sort of the relationship between Kishot and this
which again we
minion?
got a whole lot of back in Shinobu time. That's why this like again, it's I like where this arc how it ends up as a whole. It's good. I do like it, but it just at some points either it meanders or we just like it feels like we're rehashing stuff because
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
most
it
part we
feels-
knew
some of
about
the
this story.
exposition-
We just didn't
some
know
of
that
the
he survived.
exposition- Some of the exposition could have been handled way better than it was, I
Yeah.
think.
But then Gan goes to say, well, it's not only that is like Gan goes into it's all connected, that type of that meme, you know, where it's like he's pointing at the board and it's all connected somehow, and she's like,
Yeah, like she's like, listen, I wanted Ononoki to deal with this, alone. Like she could have done it, but one thing I didn't count on, even though I fucking know everything, is the fact that you are an interfering motherfucker, Koyomi.
Koyomi is like the wild card in this story.
Yeah, he's such a wild card because she doesn't seem to be able to like gauge how he's gonna react to certain things.
Because just like Shinobu, she also like she realizes that Gan realizes that Araki is more fueled by emotions, and sort of like Shinobu, she doesn't operate in that sort of like mindset.
Yeah. And then like you say, it's all connected. It's like Guy like asks him the big probing question here. Asks him like, why do you think you've been running into so many oddities in this one town? And then he's like, why do you think Kishot decided to visit this town during spring break? Why did all this stuff happen? She talks about the tiger, the cat, and says that Koyomi had to have retreated due to his trauma being burned alive. And then you're thinking, oh shit, that's the Hanekawa during the Tsubasa Tiger arc. This is some big brain writing going on over here.
And she even, I like how she was like, she goes through, I like how, like, sort of how Monogatari sort of built, it's sort of like, has its own, like, sort of mythology by now, where it's like, where you have those, like, very, quote-unquote, iconic symbols of you have the cat and the snail and the crab. It's all like very familiar now. It's ingrained into like the Monogatari series as a whole, and they play on that. And she's like, well, what do you think it's a coincidence you came across all of these apparitions? And she's like, well, that whole thing with Tsubasa and Black Hanekawa for when that first showed up, that's sort of its own story. That's not really, that's disconnected, but for the most part there's a reason you came across all these apparitions. And then she goes on to explain more about that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then of course there's more exposition about the first minion. But then she's like, okay, he died, right? He, and big fucking air quotes, died. Because vampires never really die, apparently. But during the 400 years that's, been intervening, he has like been recovered, immediately destroyed by sunlight, and then this happens over and over and over again, and then these ashes arrived in this town 15 years ago. And that's like really, that's where the episode ends, and you're left on a big like, let me give this a big think moment. Which Guyan then, episode 11 happens. Starting off right then, Guyan's like, 15 years ago, I was in college, and I had this thought about a resurrection spell on a corpse. That's how Ononoki was created. Although we also know that a couple of other people had their hands in
poor Taratsu never given the credit he deserves.
Well, and also Kakenui also had a little bit of a hand in that as well. But then if you're thinking, and Guyan's right along with you as the audience, that you have the phoenix that had inhabited Tsukihi found its host around that same time 15 years ago. Also, this is the exact same time when Hanakawa was taken into custody by her the stepfather's wife and her new husband.
Yep. Pretty much a lot of different like either apparitions or like emotional things that would feel future apparitions sort of like came together at that time. And as we said, just like how but when Kisha was in full power, apparitions would get like drawn to her. It's sort of like he was drawn to that place as well. In that sort of
and
like
then of course
fashion.
he's in his mind he's going through all this stuff like over 15 years. Like he's got to think of a span of events. Like obviously you have the thing with Tsukihi and the phoenix. You have the thing with Hanakawa and the cat. So he's like, okay, what's the timeline here? You have Shikigami, which is Ononoki. You have the phoenix. You have the cat. Then 11 years ago with the death of Hachikuji, you have the snail. Then you have the monkey granting the wish to Kanburu.
That was like 7 years before, yeah.
Yeah, the crab taking Hitagi's weight. And then 2 months before all this is happening, you have the snake incident with Nadeko. Oh my god, Alex Jones would have a field day.
They're fucking making the frogs gay, dude. How could they?
I know. Where's the gay frog apparition? Jesus Christ.
I love, again, it's so cool how this arc is like linking everything together right before we near the end game of the entire story, right? It's so fucking cool. It
is, yeah. And then obviously Koyomi, after he's having this, thought process, he's like, oh shit, they're all connected to the ashes. But then Guyan's like, it's not really the cause, but it's part of it. But it had more to do with Shinobu coming to town. And then, of course, Shinobu, still being the petulant child she is, not wanting to accept responsibility or embrace her emotions, is like, this bitch don't know what she's talking about.
It's great. I love how throughout this, and I love how then when like she mentions Shinobu, you cut to this one shot of like Shinobu sort of like eating her fingernails. She's starting to figure out where this is going. She's starting to like realize, oh fuck, I might be responsible for a bit of this mess.
So yeah, and it turns out that this place that they're at, obviously it would have been very different by then, but 400 plus years ago was that first minion's hometown. And that's why he wanted to come back here.
Yep. It's all connected. It's all this town is cursed. It has ghosts.
This town is like fucking mega cursed.
It's like Silent Hill on steroids.
But something else that I think is great about this is obviously they're at the Snake Shrine. And this is all linked back to the Snake Shrine as well. Because, 15 plus years ago, the Snake Shrine was actually being maintained. Every time we've seen it so far in the Monogatari series, the place has been a fucking wreck. Right?
Yep.
Even when they time traveled, it was a fucking wreck.
The only time we saw that it was like in good shape was when Nadeko was the goddess and inhabited it, so you need a god to inhabit the shrine for it to be in good shape,
Yeah, she was the one who actually fixed it too, with her like god powers. Maybe the snake did it. I don't know. It's never really expanded on who fixed it, but
basically, like the principle they go by is like if a god inhabits the shrine, then it will be renovated and it will be in like good shape and like people
And it's the
actually
only way that
use it.
shrines have power is if they're inhabited by a god.
Basically, yeah.
The phrase that Guyan uses is air spot. But it's a place basically where apparitions can be gathered to be basically killed. And we also realize, well, it's revealed that Guyan's job is to try and deal with oddities before they're able to like come into being and coalesce. Whereas Meme's job is to collect the stories.
Which I love how it sheds more light about how like, again, we always talk about how the Ghostbusters, like, they sort of, each of them represent a different side of this whole, like, this sort of, like, job they all do. So Kaiki doesn't really believe in oddities and ghosts, but he makes money off of them. And we have Meme, who's more of as a negotiator, who's more of a mediator between apparitions and people and whatnot. It's very neutral about it. And then you have Kaginui is very violent about exterminating them. And then you have Gain, which we finally... She talks about how she tries to control it in a manner that she tries to avert disasters before they even happen. Like, super control heavy, very, like, about, like, order, you know, amongst all the chaos.
Gaia's job is essentially to deal with things before they become problems, whereas Kaganui's job is to just eliminate the problem wholesale.
And they even mentioned why, like, they didn't call Kaganui, because Gain didn't want her to go full on just kill everyone.
Yeah, because like she knew that the second that Kaganui got involved, it would be like, oh, well, we're just gonna go full nuke on this bitch.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where we find out that Gaian's like, well, a shrine without a god doesn't have any of its abilities, and that's why the snake shrine that they're at has fallen into such disrepair. Like, the god has left. Something else we also find out during this is and again, this is something that's almost said as like an offhanded remark, but Gaian's like, same thing with like talismans and charms. Like, they only have as much power as long as they are like whole. As long as they're not broken, they actually have power. Now, this is going to come into play later. Keep this in mind. It's a special tool for later.
Also, it comes back into the whole, if you remember back in Nadeko Medusa, Nadeko found the talisman in Koyomi's drawer, then... And we are sort of going to that direction. It's like, oh, that's why he's gonna get that talisman in the first place.
Yeah, boy.
It's all coming together.
This is all coming together. Yeah, and also Meme. Yeah, we were talking about the talisman that Meme gave him. And then Gaian's like, if this happens, if he actually is able to resurrect, he's probably gonna be mostly unstoppable. And Gaian's biggest like concern seems to be that if he does resurrect, he's going to just start killing people and eating them.
Yeah, basically.
Which I think is given the fact that he is a vampire, and he is an oddity slayer, I think is not necessarily outside the realm of possibility.
Also, another connection that we kind of missed for a bit, we should definitely mention is so we know that the ashes of the first minion came to this town and like sort of stayed there, and the one thing that we didn't realize until now is like what triggered him to actually fully return is, for the first time not too long ago, Shinobu came to the shrine again for the first time. If you remember back in Mayoji Jiangshi, when Arag and Shinobu were doing some time travel fuckery, she came to the shrine, and that's when the first minion sort of like saw her for the first time in 400 years, and that triggered him to actually try and come back, because he was sort of like hanging on to her image of trying to come back and see her again and meet her again. And so that was the show, and she realizes that again it's all her fault that he's coming back now.
I like how throughout this entire conversation, because it is a very long conversation. In fact, it's more than half of the episode where Gaian is just doing all this lore dump and stuff to Koyomi. You have these cuts occasionally to Shinobu, and she just gets more and more worried as this conversation goes on.
She becomes very anxious by the end of it, yeah.
Yeah. She's almost having a full-on internal panic attack by the time this conversation is over. And then, like, so Gaian's like, all right, well, bye. Just fucks off.
Like, figure this shit out. And she's like, I'm gonna need my assistant. And the guy
Yeah,
Koyomi's
and it
like,
just
who?
fucks off, and it's like, okay. So Koyomi immediately turns to Shinobu and is like, what should we do? And Shinobu's like, Kaka! Nothing.
Speaking of laughs,
Like,
I love the first minion's laugh. And when
Oh.
when Shinobu is like previously when she's like asking him, wait, he laughed? He's like, yeah. It's like, how did he laugh? And he goes on to laugh in this like very awkward moment.
ha 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 ha.
So fucking dumb.
I feel like, so one thing I've always loved about actors is, like, I think it's a mark of a really good actor when you can act like you're acting bad.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like this is a really good example of Hiroshi Kamiya, who is the voice actor of Koyomi, doing just that.
So fucking good. I love him. But yeah, then they regroup, and it's morning, and Aragi realize that they need stuff. They need to eat. They need to get some shit. Apparently, Kamber needs to get a bra because she's going without a bra right now. So, all right. And she asks him.
Also, can I just say, having that's definitely you can tell that the Monogatari series is written by a man.
Oh, definitely.
Because most women would be very thrilled to go that long without a bra, in my experience.
So fucking stupid. And then Kamber is like, I need a bra, and also I need this one book that is coming out today. And it's like, oh, okay, what is this book? And she's like, well, don't give me shit, but it's a light novel. It's like, it's fine. I read this stuff as well. And apparently it's just BL.
Yeah.
So he goes to buy donuts and BL and a bra. So that's Koyomi's
Yeah.
agenda, apparently.
Yeah, and then we get to the bookstore, and the fucking BL has Kaiki an episode on the cover.
It's so fucking good. I didn't pick up on it the first time I watched it, but yeah, it's just Kaiki and then Koyomi is like, I need to buy some other stuff. It's like I've been accused of being a lolicon for so long. So he goes to buy like mature women's porn, and it looks like fucking
Looks like Gaian.
It looks just like Gaian. It's like, all right.
Which is ironic because Gaian does not look like a MILF.
She does not look like a MILF, yeah. Although
yeah,
in universe, I guess she's sort of a MILF.
I guess she certainly doesn't look the part.
No, definitely not.
Like I said, she goes to great lengths to kind of hide her true age. She goes to great lengths to hide a lot of stuff about herself.
Yeah. And then,
it's funny to me.
So basically,
it's almost like she's very, very, I don't know, super self-conscious about very shallow stuff.
It's like again, because we know so little about her, it's almost like she puts more, she puts more effort to like. I would say like amplify those shallow stuff about it, so you would pay more attention to that than to like what's the actual fuck is going on between like inside her brain, you know? I don't know. Mm-hmm. She's a very strange character.
As Koyomi is like trying to leave the bookstore, he bumps into someone, the only other person in the goddamn bookstore apparently. And he's like, hello, second one. It asked if he gave his message to Kiss Shot. And that is how the episode ends.
It's a great way to end the
episode. It's a great cliffhanger for the episode, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And now we get to the best part of the arc.
Yeah, now we get to the absolute meat of the arc that takes place in the last two episodes. So obviously the person that he bumps into is the Apparition Slayer, the very first minion, and he just tells Koyomi, "Be not afraid," just like a fucking angel from the Bible, because he can't ignore the signatures by those in the trade, and that's when we realize that's why Ononoki put the footprint on his face. It's like a mark saying, "Don't touch him, he's mine."
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
It's a signal to other, I guess, apparition slayers or people in the like oddity killing business.
What did you think of the first minion's design?
I think it's obviously meant to appeal to a certain demographic.
I found it interesting how it's like the first androgynous character we have in Monogatari,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Am
I
I-
would. So fun fact about this character. He is the only male character to appear on a light novel cover.
No shit, really?
Yeah. Besides Koyomi, because Koyomi is on the cover in Koyomi Monogatari.
Yeah, makes sense.
Um,
Wait, in the
yeah, he's
Japanese
the only
light
other
novels
male
or in
character.
the English release?
Both so far.
Man, I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's always an event when you get another male character in Monogatari.
Yeah, it's a huge event when you get a new male character in the Monogatari series because there's so few and far between.
Welcome to the Araragi show.
Welcome to the Koyomi Araragi show.
So basically,
And then he's like, they had this conversation, and it's almost framed as if it's like just two bros talking to each other. But he wants Koyomi to break up with Kiss Shot. Then that's not fucking going to happen. We know this is the audience. We know. And he claims that like he's sorry for everything that he said to her, and he wants to reconcile. That's something else that we've gotten throughout the course of all the exposition about this. Is one of the things that happened back then is they had this massive, or like him and Kiss Shot had this massive argument hundreds of years ago, and that's like it kind of started a chain of events that led to him wanting to kill himself.
basically, he couldn't bear the fact that he he became a vampire. So he was the apparition slayer for the longest time, and now he was like sort of he was an apparition himself. He just couldn't like handle it. So he tried to commit suicide and he threw himself away.
Yeah. And Araragi in his own head is like, I don't believe that shit. Fuck off.
And Araki is already like on high alert. It's like maybe he's trying to get revenge. Maybe he's trying to do something like fucked up. He's like he doesn't buy anything he says.
Yeah. And then the first minion there rebuffs everything he's thinking and saying, and said like, I appreciate that she brought you back from near death, but she only needs one of us. There can be only one. It's like Highlander.
It's like, and I like how that sort of line he says, where it's like the first minion is irreplaceable, unlike Aragi,
Yeah.
So it's like
He's
there's
like,
no
"You're
point
not
in fighting
special."
because like I'm irreplaceable. I'm the only like right slave for her. It's like it's kind of pointless to go on.
I'm fucking irreplaceable. You're a bitch. And then like you should, or
And then they have this
Koyomi's
one
like,
conversation which I really liked, where it's like the first minion is like it's like they're talking about like he was like, hey, why not try and convince me like if there's merit in like you not being with Shinobu anymore, or like you being with Shinobu. It's like I can think of good reasons why I can't be with Shinobu. Can you think of good reasons why it's better if you stay with Shinobu? And Araki is silent. He doesn't respond if he has any like there's any pros to him and Shinobu staying together. This link, which we will get. We'll circle around back to that.
That circles around, but it's like in his mind he's like, well, I can't think of a logical reason why it's better for me to stay with her, but I can certainly think of reasons why I would like to stay with her.
But basically, he doesn't respond to him, and then he's like,
but again, it's him. It's Araragi appealing to his own emotions instead of to logic, because logically, the first minion is right. There's no general benefit. There's no logical benefit to him wanting to stay with her. It's just an emotional thing.
And then Araki is about to drink his water as they like walk around, and out of nowhere comes in motherfucking
Your
episode.
boy, it's your boy. Episode is back.
It's kind of weird to
For his
say
like
your boy,
5-second
considering the shit he
appearance,
did.
like he always does.
Considering the shit he pulled in Kizu, it's kind of weird to call him your boy, but yeah.
I mean, to be fair, he always makes an entrance.
Definitely.
Like the dude may be a bit of a scumbag and he may be, morally gray, but the dude knows how to make a goddamn good entrance.
So this is the second of 3 appearances we see of the episode. The first time we saw him was in this Spoilercast series, rather. We saw him in Tsubasa Tiger. And now we know why, because he was with Gain all along, and like we know why Gain was there. And it's like, it's all coming together, dude.
I like how there's also subtle implications that there might be more to episode and Gaia than just simple like working together.
Uh,
It's lightly hinted at that they might actually be lovers, but
I don't know about that, Chief. I mean, they.
I don't know. I don't know. I just got this sense.
All I'm gonna say is I love that after this. So basically, episode and Gain show up. And it's like, why? It's like, oh, you tried to poison Aragi. Why would you do that now? It's like, damn you! It's like, all right, I suggest we solve this with a good old fashioned duel, and the
It's
first
time
minion,
to
yeah, and then he fucks off. And then I love when Aragi is like looking back, and it cuts back to episode and Gain is looking at the MILF porn, and episode's looking at the BL porn.
and he's like, it's not what you think.
I love that part. It's so good.
I also love that look that Guyan gives him because like she's looking at the MILF stuff that has her on the cover. And he's like, she's got that one eyebrow raised. It's not what you think, I promise. I'm not gonna fucking jerk it when I get back to you.
Right.
Yeah, Koyomi goes back to the shrine after this. And
then he sees Kanburo and Shinobu in a bit of a kerfuffle.
Yeah, to say the least. I had so this is like I think the third time I've rewatched this. I'd completely forgotten that this even happens. That there is a point in this where Shinobu has to genuinely stop herself from just outright killing Kanburo because she's so pissed about this entire situation.
This is again, so in the previous Spoilercast, I mentioned how much I love this part of the series because we get more interaction from the side characters amongst themselves, regardless of Aragi being present or not, right? And
yeah, because he is actually present. That now we find out later that Kanburo knew he was there the whole time, but he's hiding in the bushes with Ononoki because Ononoki shows up to do what Ononoki does. Why was Ononoki even there?
Basically, like to help him out, I guess, like protect him.
I guess. Anyway,
so basically,
she pulls him into the bushes, like, shh, watch.
I love later, like during that whole scene, there's a cutaway to him like holding on to Ononoki's hand, and it's like, oh sorry, I thought it's Senjugo fucking idiot.
But no, yeah. So again, this is a more of an example of Shinobu just not dealing with her emotion. Well, she is dealing with her emotions just in a very unhealthy way, because instead of actually trying to like face them internally or even with the help of others, she is just lashing out at someone who is just pointing out the fucking obvious to her,
which basically,
like, bitch, I'll kill you.
Which basically is like this entire conflict is Kanburo like asking Shinobu, why the fuck are you not going to see this guy? Why are you not seeing this first minion that obviously you had a connection before? He's obviously wants to see you and talk to you, but why wouldn't you do this? And I love how we see the growth in Kanburo, because basically she's been through the same shit, you know? She's been in a similar situation where it was her, Hitagi, and Aragi, and she was kind of left to the wayside, and she wanted that closure, and she got it when Hitagi approached her back in Bakemonogatari. So she's been through a sort of similar experience, and she sees that from her side.
She literally says, like, I know how it feels to be first and still be in second place.
Yeah. And she know how, and she know what is happening in this situation. She knows it's kind of fucked up that Shinobu is not like fucking doing anything about it and not confronting the first minion. It's like, it's kind of shitty of you, and it's fair to him to get that opportunity to talk to you and see you. Like, and she's like, and Carmen is even going to the length of, I don't care if you decide to like see him and just fucking do nothing about it. I don't care if you pick him instead of picking Araki. I don't care, but it's not right for you to not see him. Whatever, and doesn't matter what the result
is. She's pointing out that it's not only, it doesn't matter, how it goes. It matters that this is how you get closure.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And because she goes, like, Shinobu goes through that entire list, like, well, what if I hypothetically just decide to get with him again and I kill Araragi? It's like, that's fine. What if I decide to never talk to him? That's fine. What if I decide, and every single, the response to every single, like, hypothetical that Shinobu is giving Kanbaru is like, that's fine. And she's saying that's fine because at least you're actually confronting your emotions.
And Shinobu doesn't like that one bit. She's furious. She's like,
because,
how fucking dare you talk to me like that?
The whole thing.
You know,
the whole thing with her going through all those different hypotheticals is she's desperately trying to find a hypothetical situation in which Kanbaru thinks confronting your emotions is not the right thing to do. And she can't do it. That's why she's so pissed.
And
because she's realizing very slowly that there is only one right answer here. Fucking confront your feelings.
And I love how by the end of that confrontation, Araragi is like, this is the first time I've seen Shinobu lose on a one-on-one. And it's like, yeah, it's a wonderful scene. I love this scene so much. Again, we get actually, like, the show is actually confronting Shinobu on her bullshit, and it's great. And I love that it's coming from Kanbaru. Like, it's so, because for the most part, you'd be like, why is Kanbaru around? And she feels that role in this scene. This is why she's been around in this entire arc, to lead up to this moment where she's like calling Shinobu on her shit. It's like, this is wrong that you like believing this guy out to try. It's like, you need to talk to him. Doesn't matter what's gonna happen. You owe him that much to just talk to him about this. You know?
And this also brings up something that we've kind of touched on here and there throughout these Spoilercast and throughout the Monogatari series as a whole, is what exactly is the relationship between Koyomi and Shinobu, right? Because we've talked about it as like, they're not really lovers, but they're more than friends.
Definitely. That, like, every now and then they would throw around this, like, phrase of if Shinobu would die tomorrow, then Araragi would be fine with dying as well that same day, right? They have this very like, this bond that even though it was severed, it's still there emotionally between the two. You know?
And he even says, like, I think it's in the first episode of this arc where it's like, there's only one person I want to die with, and it's Shinobu.
Yep. Basically.
Which you would think, oh, that it's supposed to be Hitagi, the woman that he loves, but it's not. But again, they're not lovers, but I don't think there's an actual word for what kind of relationship that they have.
They have something going on.
It's something far deeper than just simple friendship.
Yeah.
But it's also not a romance either.
Companionship, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if there's an actual word for it.
It's definitely a very interesting dynamic that they developed throughout the series, and I love it. I love this dynamic.
But anyway, yeah, so while he's in the bushes, you know, with Ononoki, you said that he has a thing where he grabs her hand, and it's like, oh, I thought you were Hitaki. It's like, hey, this stamp you put on me, can you take it off so I can fight the duel? And he's like, well, I can, but I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, basically, Araragi is like, all right, like, we'll just have to solve it in this duel and see how it goes, you know?
I also like how Koyomi asks Ononoki to do this, and then she doesn't do it. Gaian is the one that actually has to remove it.
Yeah. Fucking dopey Araragi.
But Koyomi finally reveals himself, and then Shinobu, after all this is over, she basically goes off to fucking cry because she realizes she was fucking wrong the whole time.
She assumes the fetus position.
She assumes the defeatist position. So she's inside the shrine, and so one thing I didn't realize until rewatching it this time is that there is a weird sort of, like, I don't know what you would call it, like a zoom in kind of a shot when Kanbaru says, oh, she went to go take a nap inside the shrine, where it's like a slow zoom in to, like, the ruined doors of the shrine, and you can just faintly make out the charm that's still on the door.
Yeah, you can notice that. Yeah, definitely.
And it's held on there for a while, and, you know, I used to just think, oh, it's just kind of a weird, you know, shot, but having rewatched it this time, I realized why that shot's in there.
Oh yeah,
but that we'll get to that in just a second. And then, so he's asking Kanbaru, is everything okay? And Kanbaru's like, well, you should know. You were watching the whole time, you cheeky bastard.
That piece of shit, Kanbaru.
Then Kanbaru proceeds to immediately sexually harass him. God damn it.
Kanbaru never
Just
changed.
like, yeah, takes the books and is like, read to me and feed me. And then he's like, put the bra on me. And then he just like very sexually moans.
I love it. Like she first like feed me, then she goes and then it's like, no, I'm not doing that. And she's like, oh, put the bra on me. It's like, oh, it's like, god damn it.
And then I love how this episode ends because, god damn it, it goes back to the central premise of Monogatari. So Koyomi asks Kanbaru, so do you actually have any advice for all this? And she's like, well, do it yourself.
No. Do your best. She's like, DIY, do your best.
Yeah,
it's like that's not the one.
And then he's like, well, it's not, it should be DYB. DIY means do it yourself, but doing your best could mean doing it yourself. And that's the fucking central premise of Monogatari.
Basically.
Do it yourself.
And then we get to the final episode and we kick it off with one of my favorite shit ever. It's just Koyomi and Itagi talking to each other.
On the phone. They're not even talking to each other in person. So remember, this is all taking place during the Tsubasa Tiger arc, right?
So Itagi's been spending some time with Hanekawa.
Yes. So yeah, that whole conversation, I absolutely love it. And like that, Hitagi actually has that line. It's two lines, but they're both said by her. She says, I still labor away to become worthy enough to be your bride, which, oh, my heart fucking melted at that shit.
So fucking cute. And then I love how
then,
they
well, hold on, and then just a little bit ago, or a little bit after that, she says, "I suggest you take this as encouragement to work on yourself, so that I won't think of leaving." So this, I just want to say, this Hitagi is not the same character we were introduced to.
No,
at the
not at all.
Of this series, like she has changed so much, and I absolutely love it.
Her progression might be the most
people,
satisfying like arc in the entire series.
Some people say that past, second season, Hitagi just becomes like a side character. And yeah, largely that's true. But I still like the fact that we're getting actual character development and growth from her, even if it's in short like stints like this.
Because her arc, to some extent, sort of like, we got her arc, but we still get to see her evolve and mature throughout the series, which is awesome. Like I love how it's like she's sort of this like sort of macro narrative in the background of how she's growing as a character, as a person throughout the series. I think
and so is Koyomi too. Although I would argue Koyomi's is far more subtle.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And this is also gets to the another central premise between their relationship is each of them have faults. Both Koyomi and Hitagi have faults, but each other's strengths make up for each other's weaknesses.
Definitely, and I love
and that's what makes them so good together.
And I love how this sort of like all these past events sort of makes him reflect on, like, she talks about how like, because we have this sort of bond between the First Man and Shinobu, it's like, damn, like 400 years, that's kind of heavy. And she's like, and he's like, what do you think about these types of like eternal bond? And she's like, I don't think they exist. And he's like, if something were to happen to me and you would meet someone who, in Koyomi's words, would fill the requirements better than me, would you go for him? And she's like, 100%, yeah.
I wouldn't hesitate.
Yeah, and Aragi's like, oh shit, and she's like, but right now you are very special to me, and I'm working on being very special to you, and I want you to try and keep being special to me. And like, both of them try very hard to be better for each other. It's so fucking cute.
This is what, as I hate using this term, but as problematic as some of the stuff in the Monogatari series can be, this shit is gold.
Yeah, this is so good. And the end of the conversation between each other, they love each other, and I'm like, my heart.
Yeah, I know. During this conversation, it's also just dropped, like, again, a fucking throwaway line. It's like, Itagi says, just leave everything that's going on with Hanekawa to me. And of course, Koyomi doesn't exactly know what's going on at this point. He's like, well, internally, he's like, well, what's going on with Hanakawa? It's she's got this. I trust her. I trust her. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love the way this episode starts. I love the conversation they have on the phone. It's very reminiscent, at least in tone, to that conversation they have at the end of Monogatari.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, that's why I like it so much. Anyway, it's time to fight. So the setup for this is they're at the high school. They're on like the track field or whatever.
Are you ready to rumble?
And Koyomi's like, I don't want to count on Shinobu's power, even though I support her. So she's not here.
Yeah,
She's
Shinobu's not around.
She also doesn't want to see you because you're a bitch. But yeah, and then Guy, she has like this, I guess it's like a wooden practice sword kind of thing. That she throws down. It has like this big electrical arcs that come out of it, and she's like, all right, here's the deal. The first person to deliver a blow with this sword will be the winner of the duel. And then the guy in the armor is like, also I'd like to point out the dude returns in his armor.
Oh yeah.
He's not the little boy anymore.
He's not the androgynous person anymore.
He's like, cheeky. You wanted to set this up so someone could win without anybody dying. And it's like, Gaian's like, well, yeah, it'd be very inconvenient for me if he dies.
And I like how she's like, she takes that bit of how inconvenient all of this shit is, and then she goes to Aragi and is like, so there's a bit of trouble with Hanakawa, and Hitagi might be in danger, and she might get burned, and she's like, don't you think it'll be better if you go save them instead of doing this duel? It'd be way more convenient if you do that. And because she knows Aragi, she plays on his emotions like that, because she knows he'll probably back off the duel just to save Hitagi and Hanakawa.
Yeah,
which is very, very shady of her.
What? Yeah, it's very underhanded, but that's, of course, we've kind of learned that that's how Gaian kind of operates. Nothing is really as it seems with her, but Koyomi pulls a fast one. Again, something that Gaian wasn't exactly counting on. Koyomi puts his trust in Kombaru, tells her what's going on, and says, go help them. I'll be along when I can.
And
Gaian's like, I wasn't expecting this.
Runs for it.
Yeah, she just fucks off. And then right before this duel is about to start, the actual demon sword, Kokorowatari, falls out of the sky and destroys the fake one Gaian had prepared. And so immediately you're like, okay, what the fuck?
and the first man is like, I know you're around, and it's like, why won't you show yourself? It's like, I know Shinobu is here. I know Killshot is here.
Like a simp. He's a simp.
Why would you say that? You're a simp yourself. Fucking donating to VTubers. It takes one to know one.
It takes one to know one. But yeah, and so right before the duel actually starts, they're like facing each other, and like the first minion says to Koyomi, like, what exactly are you hoping to achieve here? And then he reiterates that line that he said, like, you're not irreplaceable, you're not special, but I am. And then like Koyomi says he might not be, but I am the only me.
It's like, what a fucking chat. It's like, I can only be me.
I may not be special, I might not be irreplaceable, but I am the only Koyomi Araragi. What a chat.
This duel is like pretty. I like how this duel sort of like turns out in the end. Like, I love how it's presented. It's really, really fucking cool. Like, the payoff of it is really nice.
Yeah, and it's one of those types of duels where the weapon is placed in the center. The combatants start out with their backs to each other, and then you count 10 steps in either direction. And then once you hear 10, you turn around, and whoever grabs the sword first and makes the first strike, that's the winner. So that's what happens. The first minion gets to the sword first, but if you'll remember that slow zoom in shot on the charm on the snake shrine, Koyomi is able to incapacitate and then eventually liquefy him using that charm.
Really, really sneaky. I like
what a sneaky bastard.
I love how it's resolved. And then I love that there's this one cut of animation that looks amazing where he's like frozen in place. And he's like faces like melts away and becomes this like pile. It looks awesome. I love this imagery.
I will say the CG could have been a little better.
It's all right. I think like what it leads to, because so basically what happens. So the first minute sort of like becomes this like pool of mush or whatever, and guess who it is? Shinobu arrives, and she's approaching him, and in one of my favorite scenes in this arc, she sort of like she's like tried to what's the word I'm looking for, comfort him, you know.
Yeah.
She tries to comfort him. She actually calls him by his name, and then like
the only time he's called by his name in the entire arc, by the way.
Yeah, it's like she calls him by name is Seishiro, and then like the entirety of like the like the gooey pool whatever becomes this like very colorful. Like you have this green around her, and it's like it's even though it's night, it's almost like the sun is coming out of the shadows, and it's very gentle, it's very tender, it's it's a very beautiful moment of like her Shinobu breaking down. It's like asking for forgiveness for him. It's like, and she also like forgives him for all of his actions. It's a wonderful moment.
It's really good. Yeah, and Shinobu's like, yeah, she's starting to eat him because obviously she has to in order to make the apparition go away. And she's like, yes, I don't want to ever see you again because I have someone more important. And then she kind of just glances over to Koyomi.
It's a wonderful moment. I love this scene so fucking much. Like,
it's like, even though you were first, you are not first in my heart.
And I love what Aragi, when he narrates, he's like, he did not feel good about like seeing like how he succeeded. It's like so he's actually succeeded now. Like the first minute is gone, but he did not feel good about this event. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Then you go back to the story time with Ogi and Koyomi is over. So we're flashback to what is ostensibly the present, quote unquote. And Ogi asked a very probing question that no one bothered to ask before. Did Shinobu eat all of the apparition? Because the armor was part of it, not just the body.
Yeah, we saw that when she ate and Seishiro, we see the armor is like left to the side there. It's just chilling on the side. And
Koyomi says, I think she ate it, but I'm not 100% sure. Well, he actually tells Ogi, yeah, she ate it. I'm pretty sure she ate it. But inside, he's like, I don't know.
And Ogi tells, like, and Ogi says that, like, if you could obtain that armor, you could remade one of the samurai swords from that armor. You have what's the name? Kokoro-watari, which is the long sword that they used, the katana they used, and there is the Yara-watari.
Yeah, the English translation is heart span.
And then you have the other sword, the Yara-watari, I think they called it?
Yume-watari, dream span.
Yeah, which you could remake it from the armor of the samurai. And Aragi's like, I don't remember. And Ogi's like, well, if I was Gain, I would have remade the sword from the armor. And it's like, And then Ogi is like, well, his full name was Seishiro Shiroshi, which is like, and so I thought he would have wanted to know because he was your romantic rival. It's like, Ogi, why would you do my boy like that? Stop torturing Aragi like that.
Oh my goodness. So there was one thing I wanted to point out. And I forget, I wrote this down somewhere, and I cannot remember where exactly I wrote this down. But his name, the name actually means something specific.
His full name?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a reference to something very specific. And I cannot remember where I wrote this down. Oh, okay, here it is. So it's his name can literally be translated as the son of life and death.
Damn.
I know. And the surname Shishori can be interpreted as involved with corpses. So his full name literally means the son of life and death involved with corpses.
Oof. Big oof.
What a great name.
Yeah. So basically, when Ogi leaves, Aragi remarks it's March 13th, and he and when he's about to leave because he's gonna go to the shrine because apparently Kagenui has been not seen in a while, and he's gonna look for her in the shrine. And on his way, sees Ononoki, and Ononoki's like, "Why the fuck are you talking to so much to Ogi?" It's like, no.
Hey, you don't know this bitch. You know me more than her.
Yeah, it's as we've said many times. For some reason, Aragi feels very talkative around Ogi.
He feels very comfortable around Ogi.
I wonder why.
Must be all those sleeve dickings he's getting.
Oh, shut up. Fucking idiot.
Yeah. He says he's trying to aim for a happy ending, but Koyomi's like, I don't think anyone is happy, but you know what? If I live 400 years, maybe I'll figure out a way to change that way of thinking.
Actually, I love how they close this episode out. It's like, Ononoki is like, well, you never said if there's any merit, there's any good reason to stay with Shinobu. It's like, what do you, like, do you still have an answer? It's like, I don't have anything to say. Like, I don't think there's anything good that will come out of staying with Shinobu. He's like, he says no happiness will come of this. But that won't stop him from like trying to change that, maybe, even if it'll take him, as you said, 400 years. As he's on his way to the shrine, that's how this section of Owari ends.
Yeah, I mean,
we did it.
The episode basically ends with him just about to leave his house to go to the shrine. And that's it. That is how Shinobu Mail ends. That is this arc.
We did it.
So
it only took an hour and a half.
We did it. Hour and a half, but we did it. We did it. Yay! I just want to say, like, fucking phenomenal way to tie a lot of stuff together and also answer some unanswered questions, because obviously what happens right after the duel is Koyomi picks up that sword and just goes straight over to where Hanakawa was having her issue, and that's why he shows up seemingly randomly at the end of
which is so cool.
Tsubasa Tiger.
Because back then it was like, wow, it's like literally her knight in shining armor is like coming to save her, but now we know like how we got to that point. It's so fucking cool. It's so good.
It is. I like the way that this arc does ties some stuff together. Also ties together like why so many apparitions seem to be coalescing in this one specific area around both Koyomi and Kishot. Just great way to tie some stuff together. I will say, we've talked about it a couple of times. Some of the exposition could have been handled, I think, a little better throughout this arc, because some of it does meander quite a bit.
Yeah.
I almost feel like because of all the meandering that was done, maybe this could have been 5 episodes instead of 6 if the exposition had been handled a little more succinctly.
It definitely feels more often than not on more of the sloppy side in terms of executing like the exposition and just the moment-to-moment scenes. Like, as I mentioned, like the beginning of the arc with meandering with Kanbaru's bullshit and all that, it feels a bit sloppy. And it's kind of and that's kind of disappointing. But at the end, I do think it comes together very, very nicely. I think, again, the end is quite powerful. I love the development with Shinobu. I love her scenes in this arc, and I can't stress enough, the fucking confrontation between Shinobu and Kanbaru is definitely a highlight in this entire final season. So while probably not the most tight script of like any of the arcs, it does come together. I think it is worth it. Unlike some arcs like Shinobu Time, where it's kind of, I have mixed feelings about going back to it. This arc definitely is definitely worth the rewatch. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, agreed. So, with that said, our next spoiler cast in our Monogatari series spoiler cast is going to be Kizu Monogatari.
Woo!
We're going to do all 3 movies all in one spoiler cast, so that's going to be a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Now, something else I want to say. Up until this point, this is either my second or third time rewatching the Monogatari series. At least the arcs in the Monogatari series. This part, or going forward from this part, so starting with Kizu and going forward to Zoku Owari, I have only watched all of these things once before.
Wait, you've never rewatched Kizu?
I have never rewatched any of the Kizu movies. No.
I envy you. I've watched it like
I watched
3
them,
times by now.
I watched them in theaters when they were here in theaters in the U.S., but I have not rewatched them since. So, yeah, this is going to be a really interesting experience for me going forward. And then once we get to Zoku Owari, that's the only part of the Monogatari series that you've never seen.
No, I've kept that off, like, from the beginning when we started doing this podcast. I knew that Zoku is gonna be, I'm gonna save it for this Spoilercast series. So I'm very excited to check that out for the first time when we get to it. But first, yeah, Kizu is gonna be a lot of fun. I've watched it a few times by now, so like I'm really excited to check it out again. It's so fucking good, and I'm sure we'll have a great time talking about these movies.
I'm sure.
Great.
I'm sure. And I hope you all have enjoyed it too. Thank you, everyone out there, for dropping in to listen to us ramble about this. This has just been the best.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Check the description below where you can find links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitch, on social media, and on Discord. You can also check out our merch store. Any purchases you make there do really, really help us out. With that, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, it's I.
Bye.
Oh, man, the editing. Oh, God, no.
Sorry, John.